Ready? 10 seconds. SSC Stenographer 2016 Dictation Matter. Start. Mr. Deputy Chairman, I thank you very much for providing me an opportunity to speak on this important bill with regard to the repeal of certain enactments and to amend certain other enactments. In fact, this exercise has been undertaken from time to time. I have a little problem on this. You may kindly recall that in the monsoon session, we passed a similar bill covering about 35 enactments and amendments. Sir, it has been referred to the standing committee. It is being examined with reference to certain decisions given on the same subject by the Supreme Court. Instead of rushing through in passing the bill here, which may be sometimes an unnecessary exercise and taking away the precious time of this House, maybe this can also be referred to the Parliamentary Standing Committee. This could be taken up together with the report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on those 35 enactments passed in the monsoon session. This is the more appropriate way of taking up a matter like this. I made an inquiry with the status of that report also. I think it is still under consideration and they have not yet finalized the bill. I do not know whether this has been recommended by the Law Commission or by a review committee. If any one of these bodies has recommended this, perhaps the entire text of the report could have been made available to this House. Just bringing a skeleton of a list and presenting it will be quite an elaborate exercise for all the honorable members to go through the merit of each case. Sometimes we may have to blindly approve this bill and send it. It is very risky. Sometimes the law may be blind, but members cannot be blind. I think we need to make a serious exercise on a matter like this so that we do not regret for any mistake tomorrow. There are very important matters on a matter of principle. For example, long back when our government was there, we had referred to the Law Commission to enact a law of torts, which is a necessary enactment. The Supreme Court or the courts pass judgment on the basis of certain verdict from the Supreme Court of the United States or the British law. That is how our case, particularly relating to the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy, suffered. They went ahead for 2 years. They failed there for want of jurisdiction. They came here because the headquarters of that corporate entity is in the United States. Ultimately, they had to arrive at some compromise which worked to the detriment of the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy. That is why even now it is unresolved. I think the government should be very careful. We should ask the Law Commission to apply their mind on an urgent law on torts, which is a must for any civilized society. It is just not available. I would request the Law Ministry and the government to ensure that they ask the Law Commission to come out with a report on an important enactment like the law of torts. Another point which I started examining as law minister earlier was at various stages of consideration, and I would add today. That is about sanitizing of our laws on the principle of gender equality. Many of our laws are not sensitive to gender. There is a law for one gender and there is a different law for another gender. Ultimately, it results in abuse of law, as a result of which people suffer. I think it should be on the top of the agenda of the government and this parliament to ensure that all our laws are made gender sensitive. Mr. Deputy Speaker, 77 of the Indian Penal Code was considered by the Supreme Court and again the Honorable High Court of Delhi considered, and it unfortunately restored it in the statute book. Laws are ideally made or unmade by the government, not the judiciary, and more Importantly, the burden of deciding the validity of Section 377 of Indian Penal Code had to be entertained only because legislatures have not reviewed it since it was passed in 1861. This is again a very important matter which requires the urgent attention of the government and parliament. We have a lot of problems, no doubt, in our legal system. For instance, 43 years after the abolition of privy purses, there is a law which still requires a police official to appear bareheaded before royalty. The Indian Treasure Act makes it criminal to fail to inform the collector or other senior officers of the state in writing of the discovery of the treasure existing of any value. Honorable Chairperson, I wish to draw your kind attention to an issue relating to the tardy implementation of the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme in some of the states of the country. Sir, the National Rural Employment Guarantee Bill was passed in both the houses of Parliament. Later on, after the Honorable President of India gave his assent to this bill, it became an act of Parliament. Sir, this is a historic act. It provides employment opportunities to the rural people, especially the agricultural labor, artisans, and the people who are living below the poverty line. I must say, sir, that millions of people in the country are going to be benefited under this scheme. For this, I wish to compliment the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister for Rural Development, and also all the Honorable members of both houses for translating this dream into a reality. Sir, if we look at the situation prevailing in our country, we find that a lot of people, especially the people belonging to the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, the backward classes, and the people belonging to minority communities, especially living in rural areas, are not getting employment during the monsoon season. When the monsoon season is not there, the agricultural activity is not carried out in the rural areas for one reason or the other. It is at this time that people migrate to cities in search of employment. Sir, we find that in the urban areas, these people get some employment either in the construction industry or in other household activities. This has resulted in exodus of people taking place from rural areas to urban areas. I am of the view that if we have to arrest this kind of a migration of the people, we will have to create employment opportunities in the rural areas itself. Now, under the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, these people are getting assured employment. It is a welcome step. The Government of India has brought out the guidelines for implementation of this scheme. Under this scheme, money is given to the states by the central government. The state government is the implementing authority. It is the responsibility of the states to identify the beneficiaries in their states. The beneficiaries are then issued a job card. On the basis of this, employment for 100 days in a year is assured for the men or women. As far as rural household is concerned, a meager sum of rupees is considered as huge money for their subsistence. It is more than enough for their livelihood, keeping in view the number of starvation deaths that are taking place and the poverty that is prevailing in such places. If you go to a rural area, you will find that a drought situation is prevailing in both the northern and southern part of the country. In these places, you will find that the poor people, especially the people belonging to the weaker sections of society, are taking only one meal a day. They do not have any other means of livelihood. They cannot educate their children. They do not have enough food grains to meet their daily requirements. What I find is that there is a clear violation of the guidelines issued by the Government of India. These guidelines are very clear. but none of these guidelines are followed, and ultimately the scheme is not being implemented in an effective manner. It is a very important scheme for the millions of poor people living in this country. If the scheme is monitored effectively, these poor people will get the advantage of this scheme. It is a very laudable scheme, but the funds meant for this scheme are being siphoned off. I sincerely feel that there should not be any politics in such issues of national importance. Sir, I would now like to mention about the lacunae in implementing this scheme. There should be total transparency in the implementation of this project. The position today is that the people living in the districts do not know about the allocation made to their districts. They do not know about the number of beneficiaries. Secondly, there should be uniformity in fixing the minimum wages for the beneficiaries. Thirdly, there is no accountability for anyone here. Neither the administration nor the panchayat is accountable. No penal action has been proposed against anyone. Then the question comes whether the work that is being done is need based or not, whether it is productive or not. A question quite often comes to the mind is whether the work has been undertaken just to provide employment to someone. I do not find any reason in needlessly engaging the laborers. It has been said that while implementing the scheme, the financial condition of the state will be taken into account.